We were not built to lead from fear, pressure, autopilot thinking, or even other people's expectations. I am Lucas Sherrod, and this is the Uncaged Leader. Practical tools, real conversations, and the freedom to lead like yourself. Let's get uncaged. This is a story that I came across of a leader who repeatedly kept butting heads with her top performer. And it was somebody actually in my life, and that leader had already decided that this top performer was just difficult and uncoachable. And this is what I've discovered. Once I label a person or a situation, I kill off anything else that might be possible. I want you to think about that, and I'll say it again. Once I attach a label to someone or something, I kill off anything else that's possible. And I have to be very careful as a leader that I'm not killing off possibilities because I'm living in a judgment. And I think we do that very naturally because our brains exist to protect ourselves, to make sure that the world's safe, to create some sense of certainty even in the midst of uncertainty. And so this leader had labeled a person because I think honestly, this leader didn't want to get hurt again, didn't want to be disappointed. And it's much easier to say that person, man, they're just difficult and uncoachable, because that lets a leader off the hook potentially of being powerful, because now I've just abdicated my power to somebody because they labeled are difficult and uncoachable. In fact, this person that I was coaching's mind, that door was completely shut, and the truth was she had shut it. So as we were talking, instead of acting on her label, she was brilliant because she paused and asked one question: what else could this be? And you see, that question actually cracked a door open, and this difficult and uncoachable person shared with her that he was quietly caring, overwhelmed because he was caring for an aging parent, and that was terrified of looking weak in front of a team because success could become a new form of a cage. And all of a sudden, we're leading not because we're performing, not because it's the right thing to do, and because we're choosing to do it, and not out of a sense of agency. We're performing because our past has said we're successful, and if we fail, we might look bad. That is a cage. When he shared this with his coach, that relationship and his performance transformed from that moment. Here's the truth: the facts had not changed, but her access to him had. One question of curiosity turned a closed case into an open one. I'm curious, in your leadership journey, whether it's leading a 2-year-old or it's leading a corporation of 2,000, I want you to think, where are you operating from judgment instead of curiosity? I want you to think about that. The way that you frame everything is powerful. Judgment reacts quickly. It assumes and it limits growth. Curiosity, on the other hand, pauses, it explores, it unlocks transformation. You see, transformation is transcending the previous form of what something exists. If our organizations are going to experience transformation, if our leadership is going to experience transformation, judgment will react quickly and assume and limit growth. Curiosity opens the door, it pauses, it explores, and it unlocks that transformation that we seek. You see, I want you to shift from judgment to curiosity, because the shift from judgment to curiosity is the key to a future where possibilities are endless and the potential for greatness is limitless. Let me say it again. The shift from judgment to curiosity is the key to a future where possibilities are endless and the potential for greatness is limitless. Because you see, please hear me say this: I believe good enough is no longer good enough for you because greatness can be achieved. That's not just a feel-good platitude. It's not just an airy-fairy statement that somebody's making to hype people up. It actually is literal. Every label I put on someone, every label I put on a situation, whether they're difficult, or this is impossible, or they're lazy, or this situation, the economy is working so strong against me, I can't break through, that this person's not a team player. Every label is actually a door. That when we ask ourselves the 5 o'clock formula, what else could this mean? That could be the key that unlocks that door. So here's a tactic that I'd like to give you on this episode of the Uncaged Leader. Give listeners the unlimited possibilities drill. And please, I'll explain the unlimited possibilities drill. Three questions to run anytime a label shows up in your head about someone. Number one, catch the label. Notice that you've quietly decided someone or some group of something is something. Yeah, I'll hear it in language like you people, or those people, or that group, or that political bent, or that religious affiliation, or whenever we label something, I want you to understand. Notice when you've labeled it or labeled them. Are they difficult? They checked out, unrelatable, unreliable, cold, calloused, hard. Catch the label first. Not saying that you're wrong, but catch the label. Number two, ask yourself, what else could it be? Think about that. And I want you to force yourself. I'm not telling you that you're wrong. Please understand, I'm opening the door to the cage that maybe something else is possible. When you ask what else it be, force yourself, even when you are firmly dug in and you know that you know that you know. I even had one leader say, well, whenever I say I know that I know that I know it's true. Until it's not. That I know that I know that I know it's true. Maybe a cage that you are locked into. What if what you know that you know that you know, something else was at work? So force yourself to have two alternative explanations before you act on the first one. And then number three, test it with a real question, not an accusation disguised as curiosity. Have you ever had that question? I remember growing up and my dad would say, do you want me to slap you? Do you want me to punish you? I was like, yeah, Dad, please do so. No, it's like, that wasn't a question. What were you thinking? Those aren't questions. So I want you to ask a real question, not an accusation disguised with curiosity. Like I will go to a team sometimes and say, why are you always dropping the ball? Why can I never count on you? Why do you always do this? Those aren't questions. Those are accusations. So a question that is really based in curiosity, an open question that gives the person room to tell you something that you don't know yet. You see, the goal isn't to assume the best. The goal is to refuse to assume anything until you've actually looked, because the cage is massively blinding. The cage will not allow us to consider another perspective. The cage will insist on you being right because your brain is there to prove that what you believe is right. The cage exists to keep people safe. But in a world of unlimited possibilities, safety isn't the goal. After all, is it? Because if we're going to transform this world and transform the lives of others and alter the course of human history, that has never been in the hands of somebody who had safety as their number one characteristic. It was always the people who were saying, I'll risk safety of being wrong so that I could see. I remember a few years ago, racism was a very big conversation in the company I was a part of. And I'm being raised in predominantly white, I'm half Korean, but predominantly white, Anglo, Caucasian, male dominated society. That was my upbringing. Instead of kind of shaking my head saying racism is bad, it's wrong, and then just going along my way, I actually picked up the phones to people that I knew who were affected by racism. And I was shocked when I showed up as a student to understand somebody else's perspective. A lot of the conservative mindsets from my white upbringing got shifted. I had never been treated that way. I had never had an incident where I went up to somebody and reached out my hand to shake their person's hand, and the person seeing the color on my skin said, "No, thanks. I'm not going to shake your hand." I've never experienced that. In fact, I was surprised and would have questioned the accuracy of that story, except I knew this person to be a person of integrity. When I got curious, I opened my eyes to something that was a real problem, and now we could potentially solve it because a problem, once identified, is halfway solved. But if there is no problem, we won't ever transform the world. You see, I opened with a story about a leader. That leader didn't get more coachable employees. I coach a lot of people who are in the independent contractor world, and sometimes people will say, "Well, nobody in my area wants to work." You don't understand that people just live with an entitled mindset. I can't find anybody who wants to put the grit in and put the work in and put the determination. I understand that a lot of people feel that you can't, quote, you can't find good help anymore. You see, this leader didn't get more coachable employees. She got the exact same person. She just stopped seeing him through a closed door. She stopped seeing that person through a lens that labeled him. Every person on your team, every relationship in your life has probably more behind it than the label you've already given it. What else could this mean? It isn't just a pause. It isn't just a cute little 5 o'clock formula. It is the door to a leadership life with more possibility in it than the one you're currently living. Step out of the cage. So excited to be your host of the Uncaged Leader. Hey, if this has been helpful, please share this with a friend. We want to start a movement of seeing people getting more and more free. Also, I would encourage you to go to www.theuncagedleader.com/resources. I have some free help there. One in particular I'd like you to take a look at. It's called Words That Create Buy-In. I'd encourage you to go download it, put it to use, and give me some feedback. Let me know how it helps. I look forward to talking to you again real soon.